number 3 of the True Life with Tom show. And I am joined by a friend of mine, not only a social media friend, but a real life friend. And we've actually broken bread together. And it's the incomparable Sarah Weber. So, what I'm going to do is I want to share a little bit about how amazing she is and how long we've known each other now. 4 years? Five?
Oh no,
Six?
Tom, it
Seven?
has, we've got to be around 7 now.
Wow, fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Well, here's some of the things that this amazing young person has done. She spent nearly a decade in sales, mostly in the real estate business, real estate investing, and she's purchased and or bought or sold over 300 properties. And she has also coached and trained real estate investors and real estate investment sales teams, and owns rental property and works for as the director of acquisitions for a company that she loves, and she loves working for them and toward financial freedom, and then sharing that journey with other people. And then beyond real estate, and this is one of the things we're going to dive into everything that Sarah wants to talk about, but beyond real estate, Sarah is working on self mastery and spirituality, flow, meditation, gratitude, joy. When we talk about spirituality, some people talk about God, some people talk about their higher power. It is whatever it means to you, right? So I'm going to share where Sarah gets into this on her YouTube channel and also on Instagram. And with her combination of personal growth and the professional success that she's already achieved, she's able to now pay it forward to others. So I know I rambled on a little bit, Sarah, but I'm so glad to have you, and I didn't want to miss a thing. So
No, I mean, it really is interesting hearing it back, played out from another person, but very honored to be here and speaking with you on a higher level than where we have been before.
sure, sure. And so we had a mutual connection through real estate, and just like with any business, it's a vehicle. And I guess what I really wanted to get into is tell us a little bit about your story. Try and take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the whole hour, ta- taking us from 0 to 20 something.
Okay, yeah, it's almost like where do you start? Um,
Well,
well,
start wherever you'd like.
yeah, so I feel like probably more so in my adult life is where my true journey has begun, both introspectively and professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went to college. I did the whole thing that you're like supposed to do. Didn't use my degree, still paying the student loans. However, it was very much worth it. And where that started was my like acting and modeling career. And it wasn't necessarily about the career, but it was about doing things that normal people don't do, right? Usually people go to college, they get their degree, they get their job, they get married, they buy a house, they have kids, whatever. I've kind of just gone against the grain since around that time. So I feel like that's where it all kind of started. And then, I dove into acting and modeling, and it was a really good time, but it wasn't bringing me the stability that I was craving and that I was
Mm-hmm.
looking for. And that's what kind of led me into sales. And from there, I started selling cars. I got really into self development. Tony Robbins is like my OG.
Right, right.
And went to one of his live, in person events and got sold on real estate investing. And so I dove into that, which is how, we met.
Right.
And everything just really snowballed so quickly there. And in the midst of that, actually, through one of my appointments, one of the sellers I was working with, it was so strange.
But
One
not,
day,
but
huh?
not, but not strange.
Strange but not
We'll
strange.
get into that.
We're on the phone, and I'm asking her about her house. I'm trying to see if we're a good fit for her to buy her property. And she asked me, we've never met in person. It's our first time communicating. She's like, Sarah, are you an empath? And I said, I don't know what that is. She explained it to me, and Tom, like, I can't describe to you the feeling that I had. You know, the movie like Spider-Man, where he gets bit by a spider, and
Mm-hmm.
it shows you like how all of his like cells in his body change.
Yeah.
That's like if I knew what it would feel like to get changed by a spider, that's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my whole body changed. It was something I've never experienced before. However, I've experienced it a few times since. And that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. And that
Mm-hmm.
was about 5 years ago.
Right.
So weird that the real estate and the professional career and how it overlaps and intertwines with the self development and the spirituality and balancing, your human mission and your soul mission and kind of how
Mm-hmm.
they combine and they overlap and they intertwine, and figuring out how to find that balance of living through your soul and your heart, but also like being a person, like in this earthly realm.
Right. Right. So you're sharpening your spiritual or energetic saw so you can go back out into humanity and impact make an impact.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, and especially at such a critical time of society and Earth, not only where we live in the U.S. but everywhere. It seems very chaotic, but I believe it is all for the grander good.
Right.
I think that all of this mess and chaos that we're all feeling is going to be, we're going to look back, whether you and I are still here or not, humanity in general, we're going to look back and be like, that needed to happen so that we could get to where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's a really exciting time to be on Earth, even though it's a lot.
Right. Right. Yeah, and one of the things that I find as or in listening to you, and I've watched you on Instagram, I've seen your shorts, I've seen you on your Instagram shorts,
Hmm.
and I've seen you on YouTube, and I love the light that you shine, and you're putting out a consistent message, and it resonates with people, it resonates with me, um, but where are you going with that? I mean, can someone like have a session with you and you kind of dive into what some of their blocks are and
Yeah,
is that something that could be on someone's menu to connect with you?
definitely. So there's a few different things I've done. I'm very like, it's funny because I'm very type A, but I'm also simultaneously very like go with the flow. I've had to kind of train myself to be that way, and so I've done a lot of things tailoring to what different people need.
Okay.
So I've done sit down videos like this where I get on and just do a few sessions with someone and figure out what their blocks are. I've made affirmation tapes for people and subliminals and things like that. I've
Okay.
created a specific like motivational videos tailored towards a person and what they're looking for.
Hmm.
I've created like meditations and things like that. So it's like yes in a sense, but I always try to tailor it to what that
Okay.
person needs. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
And so I guess one of the things that's really important. So let's say someone wanted to schedule time with you tomorrow. Um, in the first 5 minutes, you're going to know whether you're in alignment. And so one of the things that one of my mentors does is in the first 5 minutes, hey, I just want to let you know this isn't for everyone, okay? And I'm gonna ask you a few questions. We're gonna get to know each other a little bit. If at the end of that I feel like that this isn't really a good fit, is it okay if I tell you that?
Oh, I love that. That's such a good way to
And
put it.
then is it okay? And I want to give you permission to do the same for me. Is that cool?
Mm. Ooh, I
Okay.
love that.
And then now you dive into their challenge. But first, they just need to know that. we're sorting and sifting. That's what I always like to joke when in
Yeah.
relationships, people are with you for never, a moment, a minute, or a lifetime, or a season, or a lifetime. I mean, it's all different, cliches about it. But no one comes into your life by accident. And
Correct.
that's what people still don't get. And Joe Vitale is one of my favorites. And maybe you can speak on this. Is it true we attract everything that happens to us?
I 100% do believe that. I'm a big believer in soul contracts. Um, and I think where people, the right way to say this, I think where people resist that is if they've gone through something very challenging where they would say, well, I would never choose this for myself, or that person would never choose that for themselves. But when you look at something deeper and maybe they're trying to get rid of some karma, or maybe they wanted to experience certain situations and overcome certain blocks or boundaries, then you would have chosen that situation for yourself. And as far as manifesting, I think that we come here to learn of the power that we have. I think that the majority of humanity believe that we're just these little inkling little ants and that nothing we do matters. And we're such powerful, immense beings of light. And that is the message that I want people to understand. And
Mm-hmm.
I think with my YouTube channel, I try not to get too deep into the esoteric content because I like to be the bridge for people that are curious or they're just starting on their journey to understand and to give them practical ways of how to explore themselves and these realities deeper.
Right, right. And I think the rub is for some people, like, and I'll use an example. I'm not even going to mention the person's name, but I know someone who is a believer. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe, I am a Christian, and I believe that way. And that those are the thoughts in my life that kind of guide it. And it comes from love and light. All
Mm-hmm.
of it comes from love and light. And what some people, when we start talking about different levels of a consciousness and these kind of things, are like, oh, that's not that's not godly. And it's like, no. Once we learn our power, we're created in the image of God. That means we have God and godlike powers, not to be gods and to rule, but to change and to shape and to commune.
I
Does
love
that does
that.
does that make is that like a good explanation to the Christian? Like, don't get scared by what you're capable of.
Right. And it makes so much sense. And I love that you brought that up because my upbringing in Catholicism and Christianity has been a challenge on this spiritual journey through what I was indoctrinated to believe and what I actually believe. And that there is a lot of overlap, but there's also a lot of differences. And I think that everyone should open their minds up a little bit and not put themselves into a box.
Mm-hmm.
I think the boxes and the labels is where the issues begin and why people will say things like that. I still am pretty Christian based, but like if you ask my mom, she's like, "You're not a Christian," because it's just a different way. Where when I look at Jesus, um, I see it differently than I did when I was younger, when I was being raised through the church.
Right,
Whereas now I'm like, I get it, where he's saying you can do everything that I am doing and more,
right,
but they don't teach you what that actually means
right.
in most church settings.
True. And for your mom, let her know that meditation and prayer are interchangeable.
Exactly. And
You know,
manifestation.
Yes, but yeah, exactly. But you know, when we say words out loud, we're saying it to source, we're saying it to the universe, we're saying it to God. We're more importantly saying it to our subconscious mind where our
Hmm.
powers are,
Yes, our
you
higher
know.
selves.
And then our subconscious mind says, "Oh my gosh, is that what you want? I just want to keep you safe, but that sounds like fun. Why don't we do that?"
Yeah.
And then you have that nudge. I love the nudge. It's not the inner voice that says, "Oh, you don't do enough." It says, "Hey, remember that thing you told me yesterday? Aren't you supposed to do that today?"
Yeah. Yeah. And also too, like with the nudge, I think it's giving ourselves permission. I think that most people don't give themselves permission to explore, and that's why they get so like stuck and stagnant. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like just allow yourself to. The I've done some weird stuff over the years since I started my spiritual awakening, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it did not stick, but a lot of it did. And it's
Mm-hmm.
always some things like don't work for you at one moment, but then they might the next, and vice versa. And I think it's just like people would be so much happier and filled with love and peace and joy if they would just give themselves permission to explore.
Right, right. I have a morning routine, and some people are like, "I don't have routines. I just let things flow," and that's fine. So every morning when I get up, one of the first things I say is, "Thank you, God, for another beautiful day in your beautiful universe." I put cold water on my face, my neck, my head, you know, and just a few times. I haven't been doing it as lately because of the sub-freezing temperatures, but I did walk out in my bare feet at 19 degrees the other day.
Whew,
So I ground
got some
often.
good grounding
I
in.
ground often, often. But see, taking it back to God, God wants us connected to each other. He wants us connected to nature. And everything we need to heal is already in nature.
Yes.
Everything. And you know, I'm not trying to be controversial in this next statement, but cancer and other diseases, all diseases start in the soul and the mind first. Your DNA is out of whack, your thought processes are out of whack, and then a disease forms in the body temple, right?
I'm laughing because I just had this conversation less than 24 hours ago with one of my roommates where he sent me a picture. I probably can't show you on the screen. Let me see if I can real quick. It's just funny that you said that. I'm like, oh my gosh, we were just talking about this. Uh, it's talk. You probably can't see it, but it says. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but stress depletes minerals, anger wears down the liver, perfectionism corrodes the gut. You know all these things and what heals them. And I literally said, yes, your body is in dis-ease because of those things.
And so that's the cool part about us coming together in this moment in time. You know that something like that was going to happen in this
Right, right,
conversation.
of course.
We're just gonna like confirm that we're in flow.
Yes,
Like
yeah, like
right, it's
that
it,
was the synchronicity.
right, right. And so that's another thing too is I was also talking to my friend on Tuesday, and I said I have some. She gave an example of a couple. Okay, so a couple gets together on Friday night. They have a wonderful time, dinner, you know, whatever it leads to. The next morning, he gets up. Hey, babe, gotta go. I'm helping my buddy put in a hot water heater. I'll see you later. And he leaves. Well, he's going to refill his cup that he emptied with her.
Mm,
She's brooding because he's not spending more time. And she said, you can either accept that he's going to get his cup filled for you, or you can brood that he's not there.
ooh, that's so good.
And I'm just like, wow, 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 because and that's what I was going to give you the example. I have a couple of local businesses around here. I have a local market in Delhi that makes great breakfast and lunch, you know, sandwiches and salads and a bunch of other stuff. But the people are amazing, and I've given them love from day one, and they've reciprocated a lot since then. And so what I've done, my new intention, putting water on my face, feet in the grass, prayer to God for gratitude, just gratitude every morning, is now energetically, I'm going into every new conversation. And I want you to speak on this. How do you show up in a new conversation? I'm trying to align and add value.
Hmm. I think, and this is what a lot of stuff comes back to, is just the ultimate presence and being present. Because a lot of times we're in our heads thinking about how we're going to respond to the next person, what we're going to say, and that takes us out of the moment,
Hmm.
you know? And so when you're so in your head and in your thoughts, and I'm a big thinker, but like with everything, there's a balance to it, you know, where there's a time to think and there's a time to be present and to listen, and that's when you'll get into that flow of these new conversations.
Hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that I like about um, your shorts and your reels and videos is um, you're very animated, and
Yeah,
you're
I can
very
help
passionate,
it.
and you're very passionate about what you say, and I've said this to you before, but I think you're a beautiful bright light. And one of the reasons you're on here is because you've shown on me and you've impacted me. So I want to give you this opportunity in the infancy of my creation,
Hmm.
for you to share, because I've only seen you as an observer. Today I get to actually feel and change and experience the now with you. And
Ah,
that's another thing. No, but most people don't know that that's the only time that exists. If you're living in yesterday, it cannot serve you today because you're not that person anymore.
yeah,
You have to let that person go, right? So what's helped you? I mean, obviously you're still on your journey, right? But
never
what are
ending.
what are what are yeah, lifetime learners, definitely. What are a couple of like takeaways, ahas, like one or two, three things that is just like part of your daily energy exchange diet?
Yeah, I love this question. A big thing that I do that I don't really see people talk about, but will make a huge impact in your life, is I make fun of myself, like in a lighthearted way, very often. So say for example, you know, you're running out to the store or whatever, and you know, the light turns red. You know, you miss the lights, and you'll feel that like twinge of like annoyance or like irritation. You're like, ah, of course I missed the light, you know?
Right.
And I sit there and I'm at the light and I just start ripping on myself, like, oh Sarah, you missed the light. Your light
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah. The world doesn't want to let you get through right now.
Yeah, exactly. And in that tone, and I will say it out loud,
Mm,
you know, and it leads me to laughter,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's having a good time with yourself, I think, is really important. And a lot of people don't give themselves the space to do that and to enjoy their own company.
Right.
I'm going to lead that. That's going to be my number two, is
Okay.
learning to be alone. And it doesn't mean like if you're
I get it.
married, like, you know what I mean? But
Quality alone time.
yeah,
Okay.
and just really learning who you are and asking yourself the deep questions. And when you feel triggered or you feel upset, asking yourself, well, why is that? Because I have found that a lot of times when you figure out where things come from and why you're feeling a way, and again, or on also do this when you're feeling positive. Trace that back. Where is it coming from?
Mm.
When you start to learn those things about yourself, it's easier to move on from them and to let go and to know yourself better and to be happy. So those are like two big things that I do. Make fun of yourself and get to know yourself on a deeper level, and spend alone time with yourself. Um, and the big thing is too is life is just not that serious. Like we
No.
make everything so serious.
Yeah. It's a programming.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get into that too deeply, but the machine that we're part of. There's a beautiful black woman who wrote The Matrix, which is a documentary for those people who aren't aware. Um, but the bottom line is that from the time we're born, there are certain things that are done or said or put on TV that happens for everyone.
Hmm.
Okay, it varies, but there's this messaging. We use it in the middle class. Go to school, go to college, get a good job, work for another company until you retire, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then there are people like us who say, you know what, I understand there's more than this. And we question the program, and then
Hmm.
we rewrite our own program, and now we're starting to have a conversation with someone who's programmed. And the thing that I try my best to do, and maybe you have some breakthroughs, what I try my best to do is come from such a place of light that they're like, "What is wrong with you?" You
Literally
know,
everyone in
and
my
th-
life thinks I'm
and
crazy.
and then I can say, it's I'm grateful. I'm filled with the joy of the presence of God within me and without. And so one of the things that I do every week, there's a couple of local entrepreneurs that I just adore, and we get along great. So I'll make a couple of stops just to have that interaction. One I barely know, but she speaks Spanish. I speak English. I know un poquito español. She, and so we're starting to have exchanges because it's a local market, and I go get my jalapenos there, I get my lemons there, I get my limes there. Well, right around the corner is my friend Maher, who owns Cairo Market, and they have Greek, Middle Eastern, and Turkish foods.
Mm.
Well, now I drink Turkish coffee because it's amazing.
Ah, I'll have
Okay,
to give it a
but
try.
every time and I'll send you a picture of the type that we drink now. Um, I'm going to go off topic for a second. Anyway, the grains are really really fine. It's almost like a powder. You can
Yeah.
actually put it in a hot cup of water and do instant, or put it in your
Okay.
or
Okay.
make a pot, right? So what we do is we take the coffee and some sugar and put it in our Keurig in the filter, and then we've got coffee, sugared coffee that comes into our carafe,
Oh, interesting.
and it is just delicious. And I don't add creamer that often, but but anyway, my point is my hair is amazing. Okay, so he told me his name. He said if you ever need to remember, just go like this, my hair,
Maher.
my hair.
I love it.
His name is Meher Dabsha, and just amazing human being. So I have a number of entrepreneurs around town that I go to just to exchange energy and and currency,
I
right?
love that. Again, it's like what we were talking about in the beginning of your human being and your soul being and how they overlap. You're getting both of those things with those exchanges.
Exactly. So could you tell me maybe one or two things that you do on a daily or weekly basis that keeps you in gratitude and joy?
Mm,
Like just a
love
couple.
that question.
I mean,
Um,
you probably got a ton of them,
the idea,
you know.
but another thing is we can't do it all every day, right? And so you have to pick and choose. Well, what are the things that I do want to do every single day? And I do have it's a video on YouTube. It's like my 5 minute morning routine. And it's like my gratitude routine. And I lay in bed as soon as I wake up in the morning, before I even get out of bed, because I'm lazy. No, I'm just kidding. I get up and go to the gym. But I think of three things that I'm grateful for that day. I think of the day before and I pull from that day. And I thank in advance for something specific that's going to happen this day. So, like for example, this morning, I did all my gratitude stuff, and I said thank you, in advance for having a great conversation with Tom today. And so just doing that is like the biggest game changer. When I'm not doing that morning routine, oh, I feel it. I know when I'm not being grateful in the morning, your whole energy shifts. That's my number
Right.
one thing. Doing it morning, doing it at night, and then being in the present moment when you're eating or when you're drinking, water, and giving gratitude for the water, giving gratitude for the food that you're eating, giving gratitude for the roof
Mm-hmm.
over your head,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that we take for granted often.
Wow. And so here's the thing that's really cool from what you said is um, you've rewritten your DNA. And the challenge is that some people who are watching this might say, well, that all sounds good for you guys, but my life is miserable. I'm depressed. My boyfriend barely talks to me. My wife barely talks to me. Whatever their thing is. And so if you were talking to someone for the first time, what would you be like? What is step one for them to? And I know it's individualistic, so
Hmm.
let's just say as a sweeping generalization, if someone's kind of stuck, what are like one or two things they can do just to get unstuck for a moment or a day?
Yeah, it's gonna sound a little counterintuitive, but I'll explain. And that is self-awareness and self-accountability, and taking responsibility for the feelings that you're feeling and the situations that you're in. It's a really hard and challenging thing to do for a lot of people, especially when you're stuck in that victim mentality and the negative mindset. But what they don't realize is once you can start doing that and saying, okay, well, what is my role in the way that I'm feeling? What is my role in the situation that I'm in? It
Mm-hmm.
actually gives them their power back. So that's definitely step number one. You can't do anything without self awareness and accountability.
Right. And what most people, um, if you're in a state, you should be looking to get out of this state in some form or fashion naturally.
Hmm.
So one of the things I say it's watch a silly movie, go for a walk, do some jumping jacks. One of the things I'll do is like just in the middle of the day I'll be standing, whatever room I'm in, and I just start bouncing back and forth
I
because
love
I want to
that.
keep my vibration up.
Yeah.
When I do exercise in the mornings or do grounding, I'm waving my arms and, some of the things I've seen online. And that's because body in motion stays in motion.
Yeah.
And
And I think too, I think a lot of people look at those like you and I when we're talking about this kind of stuff and think that we're like this all the time. And that's a big thing I talk about on my YouTube channel is like, I am not happy and love and light and butterflies 24/7. I'm actually quite cranky often. But it's also honoring those aspects of yourself as well and not beating yourself up because you feel angry or sad or jealous or whatever the human emotion is. um, no one lives a perfectly happy and joyful and peaceful life. Maybe that's the goal, but it's knowing that you can move through those emotions the more you work with them instead of stuffing them down.
that's the thing. I think that's the thing. I battled with some depression back in 2018, and I took an action to reboot. I moved to Florida for 4 months,
Yeah, I remember.
and I went down there and I rebooted, and some things are the same, but this isn't. This isn't.
Hmm.
And so um, that's the thing is that when you get stuck in those places, being alone in your mind, if you don't have something creative to do, like you said, be self-aware, be aware, figure out, maybe why am I feeling these things?
Hmm.
And most people in pain, they want an escape. They don't want to look in the mirror. So would you say the fastest way to make change is to face it head on?
Oh my God, yes.
And,
Yeah,
and
the quickest way out is going deep. deep in within yourself. And sometimes that's also looking at things from your past and dealing with those because they stay with us, right? So as soon as you can, I'll give you a quick example. I was in a relationship years ago. I think it was before you and I met. It was so toxic. He was so abusive, right? And for so many years after we had broken up, I would just put the blame on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a terrible person. He treated me that way. He did this. He did that.
Right.
And then I realized, well, you put up with it. You stayed. You allowed someone to treat you that way.
Right.
And realizing that, again, taking that accountability of what was my part in this. And once you can actually do that and admit to yourself and realize your part in these things, it allows you to release it from your body and you don't
Mm-hmm.
hold on to that anger and sadness and resentment and whatever
Mm-hmm.
anymore. So yeah, dealing with things straight on is the best way to feel better.
Right. Right. And sometimes we get into those situations, and now it's coming back to that lack of self-awareness. If I valued myself more, I wouldn't tolerate this.
Right.
So you do have to, you come out the other side, you faced it in your own mind, and then you let it go, you released it. um, Maybe. And another thing I love is forgiveness is for you, it's not for them.
So true.
And I want to
So
give you, this is
true.
something you may want to, I'm going to text it to you or whatever, you don't have to write it down. My favorite quote from Mark Twain: forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that crushes it.
Something like that, I would need to look at it written down, and I would have to sit with that for like 15 minutes.
Okay. And I'm just going to summarize.
Yeah,
Okay. All
please
right.
do.
A foot mashes the violet and kills it or crushes it. But when the foot lifts, the fragrance is on the foot.
Mm, yeah, that's
So
powerful.
that's forgiveness.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
That's forgiveness. I'm forgiving you for stepping on me. And
Wow.
this is how I forgave you. I'm going to give you a sweet fragrance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
because the emotions that we feel, unfortunately, this is something, a lot of this stuff takes time to integrate, right?
mm,
Any emotion you're pushing out is actually a boomerang. So, for example, I go to this one gym because it's close to me, even though I prefer a gym that's further away. The reason I don't like it is because they always have these classes going on. And there's a woman who yells really loud throughout the entire class. It just really irks me, right? And so a few months ago, I'm like warming up, I'm on the treadmill. I feel like I have human emotions too. And she's yelling. I've got my headphones on. And I'm like, I'm boiling. I'm so angry, right? I'm like, this is so annoying. And then I realize my feeling of annoyance right now is not affecting her. It's not doing anything to her. It is 100% boomeranging back to me. I am the only one feeling this way because I'm feeling this way.
right. Right.
you know? And I think we feel if we have these feelings like, think of toxic relationships. Well, if I just love them harder, they'll love me back. That's not the case. You're just boomeranging it. And so I
Right.
think that's something I realized a few months ago because of the gym situation that I'm still working through and integrating. But yeah, I mean, it was a powerful one for me.
Well, I can give you, I can actually give you another example along the same lines. For years, I've been questioning the healthcare system because of the deep research I've done for the last 5 years, and I know what I wish I didn't know some of what I know.
Feel
Okay,
that.
but one of the things that I said was, hey, you know what? I feel some kind of way about the healthcare system. I call it the sick care system. It's broken. I feel some kind of way about it. And she said, all what you're doing is you're giving power to more of that, more bad healthcare.
Yeah.
You're giving power just by feeling about healthcare.
Yeah.
You're giving more power to bad healthcare. And I'm like,
It's such a
no
conundrum.
way. And so it's like, all right, so you got to think, focus on what you think, what you feel, what you're doing, what you think, what you feel, what you're doing, for
Yeah.
sure, for
It's
sure. You
it's so
definitely have to be on
powerful.
that, for sure.
I don't know if you were there's so much going on in the world right now that it's hard to kind of know everything. But there was a hurricane that was supposed to hit Florida not too long ago. It's like maybe 2 months ago. And everyone's freaking out, like it's going to be a state of emergency. It didn't like hit land yet. Um, and everyone's freaking out, and then all of the spiritual people got on and they were like, hey, we can make sure this doesn't happen if we all focus on not the fear, but doing the meditations and visualizing this not happening, this not affecting these people in Florida and maybe in other locations if it was going to move. And so they did this worldwide meditation. There were thousands of people on here live, and we were all did a meditation on this hurricane. And by the time it hit land, it went down to like I think it was like the lowest category, and there were no deaths, nothing like nothing really bad happened.
Hmm.
And the normal everyday person is going to sit there and say, "Well, that was a coincidence. You didn't do anything, whatever." But if you're tapped in and realize how powerful our thoughts and our minds and our the way we are all connected is, that it was the people that got rid of that.
Right,
And it
right.
sounds loony. Like even when I talk
Well,
about things
well,
like this now, I'm like, I know it sounds crazy.
well, that's the thing. I mean, I believe in the potentiality of everything, and most people don't think like that. I'm
Yeah.
59 years old, and in July I'll be 59. But I've been a constant learner. But I figured out my purpose and when I was 45. I believe I was put on the earth to elevate, motivate, and educate people in my unique way as I help them on their journey. That's what I believe. My challenge is I should be saying that all day, every day to myself and to the universe, to God,
Mhm.
pray it out. And I occasionally, daily, find that self-worth voice going, why aren't you stepping into all your stuff and now you're feeling some kind of way? If you stepped into all your powers, you would never, ever, ever feel this way again.
So
So,
true.
so that's where I am is like, free will. I love this example. Free will is, um, I wrote it down, so I got to share this with you. There's two types of will. There's free will and, well, I guess it's free will. It's free will and primal will. All right. Free will is, your subconscious mind wants to keep you safe, and ego's involved.
Mhm.
Ego is, Dr. Wayne Dyer says, ego is edging God out. Okay, edging your godlike powers out,
Wow, good.
edging out. You're living for on your own time and your own schedule. You're not in primal. Primal is flow and allowing and being a human being.
Being, not doing.
And so many people are all, what do I got to do? I didn't do. I forgot to do. I've got to do. I wish I did. I've got regrets. I've got, and they're not, none of it's present.
Yeah.
And when you get older, mortality creeps in, but we never die, and some people can't handle that either. Okay,
Yeah.
our meat suit will stop working, but our soul's infinite.
It is, and I think that's it's funny. I joke about it's a little morbid, but I joke about like dying often.
Hmm.
And I think even last night me and my roommates were heading out to dinner, and I forget what was said. I forget what we were talking about, but I was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Like if I die, like it's not whatever." And I said it very
Hmm.
casually like that, and they're
Hmm.
like, "Sarah, you can't just like say that." And I'm like, but I just don't really like care when I die because I know that that was like my predetermined time. Like I
Hmm.
must have completed what I came here to do, and like I know that my soul goes on, and that even like for you guys, like I'm not saying bye. Like I'll just see you like when you're on the other side too. So like
Right.
I've done so much research on the other side and near death experiences. Like I got
Mm.
really into that for a
Did,
while.
did have you looked up Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross?
Yes.
See, I told you more was coming. I did a paper on her in college
Oh
when
my
when
gosh,
when I
yes.
was when I was your age or younger, and the common themes were all, light and bliss and tranquility, and some people had the darkness, and I don't want to get into all the details of the afterlife that you've learned, but what do you believe is after life? What do you think happens to you when Sarah the body doesn't move or operate anymore? Where do you go?
Yeah, so I believe we all go back to the original source and collective consciousness. We're reunited with all our loved ones, our pets, our ancestors, all of that. And it really comes down to Earth really is a very tough school to level up our soul, and
Hmm.
that the people that are here are really brave because most other like lives on other
Hmm.
planets and other forms that we take, are not as difficult
Right.
as being human is. And I would recommend that anyone that's interested in learning about that kind of stuff, and a lot of times I speak to people that are a little older, because that fear of death can start creeping up, and
Right.
I find that doing this type of research can really alleviate that sense of fear and sorrow and panic.
Right.
So I would recommend to anyone that's interested in this to look into Dolores Cannon and her
Okay.
work.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Dolores. Um, I'm gonna put. I'm in the interest of your time. I'm gonna, wind things up here in a minute. So what I wanted to do is send me whatever information you want for me to put in the description of the video.
Okay.
But what is your YouTube channel called?
Yeah, it's just my name. So it's just Sarah Weber. And then the thing is spiritual fitness.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
I release videos most Fridays.
Okay,
Sometimes I take a break for like a week.
okay.
And I don't beat myself up about it like I used to.
Oh,
Like, oh, the
all right.
world's ending if I don't post a
Right, right. Well, I just want to let you know that this time was incredibly special to me. I've always had a special place in my heart for you. I think you're an amazing human being, and one of the first few people I brought on here, and I just want to keep having fun with this. And I believe that faith and spirituality are intertwined very, very deeply, and we need to not be afraid to become our best selves. So, is there anything that you wanted to share? Catchphrase you use, any parting words, anything that you just want to share before we hang up, before we move
Yeah, I
on?
just want to say to like thank you so much for inviting me on. It's always a pleasure, and honestly, it's been too long since we've sat down and like had a
Right.
conversation. So it's been really nice. But my slogan on my YouTube channel, Instagram, everywhere is be limitlessly yourself, and I
I love
think
it.
that really encompasses being authentic to who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing. It's okay to
Right.
be off the charts, happy and excited and joyful. It's also okay to punch a pillow and cry in your bed and have those moments as well. It's all
Right.
about being true to who you are and authentically yourself
Right.
and knowing that you are limitless in your capabilities and that you can continue to grow and evolve all throughout this lifetime, no matter when you're starting.
Right. Perfect. Well, everyone, this is Sarah Weber, and I'm your host, Tom Black. This was episode 3 of True Life with Tom show. And if you want to support Sarah or the channel, there'll be all sorts of great information about connecting with us in the description. And then we just set up our 501c3 called People Giving a Hand Up. So if you'd like to support our mission to help people with food, housing, clothing, and healthcare, you have a link to do that in the description on this video. So namaste, my friend. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Recording is done. I did want to find out, is it possible for sometime in the next 30 days to break bread with you somewhere